really wanted to make a video talking about being on and off ADHD meds for 20 years because I have been on and off ADHD meds for 20 years. I was put on Adderall when I was 12. Since then, I have cycled through many different stimulants and non-stimulants. I am happy to report that for about 3 weeks, I've been able to take Vyvanse again. This time is different though because I'm doing quite a few things to really reduce the significant negative side effects I experience on Vyvanse. For the most part, it's been working. There's been maybe 3 days or nights that it hasn't really worked, but all those nights correlate with me not doing these things. I thought I would spend the first half of the video kind of talking about my experience with ADHD medications, all the ones I've taken, side effects I've experienced, what I did about it, basically how I got from a 12-year-old being put on Adderall to a 32-year-old on Vyvanse and doing well on Vyvanse. And then I do want to talk about the major things I'm doing to really reduce all the negative side effects of Vyvanse, mostly to do with sleep. Vyvanse being a stimulant really impacts my sleep. So most of the things I'm doing to counteract the negative side effects are to basically help me sleep. Some of the other negative side effects that I experience on Vyvanse are loss of appetite, anxiety, depending on the day, and muscle tension. So we'll get into that. But first, I do want to just kind of give a little background on my experience with ADHD medications. So as I mentioned earlier, I was put on Adderall when I was 12. When I was diagnosed with ADHD, I was diagnosed with inattentive ADHD when I was 12. And interestingly enough, I was re-diagnosed when I was 27 with combined ADHD because I wanted to get back on medication and I had to get another diagnosis for that. Yeah, I was put on Adderall when I was 12, and for the first few years, it was really helpful. I didn't really notice any negative side effects for the most part until I was 15. I think 15 or 16, I started to notice some cardiovascular side effects. So that was kind of a little concerning as a teenager, but it didn't really impact my life too much at the time, so I didn't think too much of it, mostly because it would just make my heart beat a little bit faster when I would exercise or dance or something like that, but I would still be able to do everything that my peers were doing, but my heart rate would increase a little bit. And then I was put on Dexedrine in addition to the Adderall when I was, I think again, 14 or 15 to help me do homework. So I would take the Adderall in the morning, and then I would take the Dexedrine later in the day around 4 p.m. And I wasn't having like many sleep issues at the time that I remember. I think it's pretty common to be put on both, or it was back in the day. The next major thing that happened was I went away to university when I was 18. So I was in a completely different environment, eating completely different food. I was in residence, so I wasn't able to access the more nutritious foods I was relying on as a teenager that I noticed really did help my ADHD, as well as the side effects from the medication. When I went away to university too, I also decided that I wanted to go off Adderall, which was kind of a crazy time to go off Adderall because it was a point in my life where my workload significantly increased. I was in a new environment that just like did not go well. So after going off it for a few weeks, I went back on, and going back on, I noticed the side effects were a lot more intense than before because I had a little bit of a break. After that year, I quickly got off Adderall because the side effects just were so bad. It really impacted my sleep, really impacted my mental health in a very bad way. Couldn't really eat much, definitely contributed to like a lot of depression and anxiety. The Adderall was not working with my brain chemistry anymore. So after that first year, I switched to something else. I switched to long-acting Dexedrine. So I was just taking the long-acting Dexedrine, which is like similar to Adderall, but a little different during the day. And then I would take the short-acting stuff again in the afternoon when I needed it for like a little boost. And I did that for a few years, and that was all right. It was better than the Adderall. After university, I wanted to try different drugs. So I switched to Concerta for a little bit, and I found it wasn't as effective as the Dexedrine or the Adderall. So I stopped taking that. And then I tried Vyvanse for the first time when I was in my early 20s. And I had quite a few negative side effects on that, just like it really impacted my mood and anxiety as well. So I wasn't on that for too long either. Throughout my 20s, I think for the most part, I was just on the short-acting Dexedrine. So I would just take that throughout the day. Since it lasts a lot less long than the longer-acting medications do in your system, I found it didn't really impact my sleep that much. I did a whole year off ADHD meds at one point. I was just in a place where I felt like I didn't need them for work, was at a pretty good place in life. I was living in a different city at the time, and I moved back to Toronto where I live now and started my business. I had no idea how to start a business, especially an online business. There's so many little things to do that I just like had no idea how to do. So I wanted to get back on a medication for that. So I started taking the short-acting Dexedrine again for the first year and a bit of running my business. The beginning of last year of 2025, my workload increased quite a bit. I got a ton of new clients, which is amazing, which is what you want when you're running a business, but I found that the Dexedrine really wasn't supporting me in the way that I needed it to. So in the spring of last year, I switched over to Vyvanse again. Out of all of the long-acting stimulants, I just found that Vyvanse supported me better than the other ones. I just found that Concerta didn't really do much for my executive function. I did not want to go back on Adderall. Adderall just was really scary to me and not something I wanted to go back on. Just out of all of the options, Vyvanse seemed like the best. So I went back on that. It really contributed to a lot of difficulty sleeping over the summer. I was also traveling quite a bit, so I know that played a big role. But when I got back from traveling, my sleep was still really bad. And then I actually stopped taking the Vyvanse completely in the fall for a few months, but my sleep didn't fix itself. So I think there's quite a few factors contributing to my sleep. I think I'm just like, I have issues with sleep in general. Like ever since I was a baby, I was a very sensitive sleeper. That's what my mom told me. But adding stimulants on top of that really did not help. Towards the end of the fall, I started to take a few more courses and they were quite challenging. So I did want to go back on an ADHD med for that because I've never really done school without ADHD meds since I was put in them so young. I went on the short-acting Dexedrine for that. It was still impacting my sleep a lot, and it was just, since I was taking a few dosages throughout the day, it just felt pretty unstable and not something that I wanted to do long-term. At the beginning of the year, I started Strattera, which is a non-stimulant. Non-stimulants work quite differently than stimulants. They take quite a while to build up in your system versus with a stimulant, you'll take it in the morning and you'll notice the effects probably like within the first hour of being on it kind of thing. It was not my experience with Strattera. You're supposed to take it for I think 4 to 6 weeks to notice benefits, but I could only take it for 4 weeks just because it started to make me really tired during the day. It started to really affect my mood in a negative way, and then on top of that, it started to really impact my sleep. So I was like, well, I'm not even getting the benefits of an ADHD medication and it's impacting my sleep, so I don't want to be on this anymore. So I switched back to Vyvanse about 3 weeks ago, and when I made the switch, I made these agreements with myself that I would really do my best to do these things to help myself sleep while I was on Vyvanse, and just like really hoped that they work. And for the most part, they have, and I'm really thrilled about that because Vyvanse is just such a game changer for me. It really, really helps my executive function. It just helps me get things done. It helps with my anxiety. By doing all these things, they, for the most part, really counteract the insomnia that I experience or have experienced on Vyvanse. They really help reduce the anxiety that I would used to get on Vyvanse, the muscle tension as well. I still get more muscle tension than I do in Vyvanse versus not on it, but it is a lot less. And some of these things also are helping with the appetite suppression that I experience on Vyvanse too. So I'm going to get into what those things are, because not only have they been able to help me take Vyvanse most days of the week, I don't take it every day, I take it about 5 days a week, sometimes 6 if I need to. They also really do help with my ADHD symptoms as well. So yeah, let's get into it. Since I'm a nutritionist, I am going to start with the nutrition piece. I do talk about this all the time, keeping blood sugar stable. That basically just means making sure you're eating regularly and eating sources of protein and complex carbs or fiber. They're kind of the same thing. There's going to be fiber in complex carb. When we eat regularly, it helps stabilize our blood sugar. Unstabilized blood sugar would look like going the whole day without eating, something that is really common on stimulants because they act as appetite suppressants in so many people. The opposite of that would be your blood sugar spiking. So just having like a Coca-Cola on its own without any snacks with it, or a bunch of candy, or like a slice of cake, anything on its own that's mostly sugar without any protein or complex carbs, fiber or fat, if you have that on its own, that's going to spike your blood sugar. And when that happens, you have a ton of energy for like 5 minutes and then your blood sugar levels crash because your body uses up that energy super fast. So when your blood sugar levels are too high or too low from eating too much sugar on its own or going too long without eating, that really makes ADHD symptoms a lot worse. One of the main principles of ADHD nutrition is to just eat regularly, and ideally whenever you can, eating protein and complex carbs together, and just really working on food access so you do have sources of protein and complex carbs that are pretty easily accessible to you at all times. That's the goal. For myself, I really started to notice that eating has always been difficult on stimulants. It's not something that's come easily to me. It's something that I have had to put quite a lot of work into because they act as appetite suppressants for me and a lot of people. Ideally, I do aim to not go too long without eating, but sometimes the day will get away from me and it'll be more than 4 hours since the last time I've eaten. At that point, blood sugar levels are going to be pretty low because you haven't given your body any fuel through food. Not only are ADHD symptoms going to get a lot worse and harder to manage when blood sugar levels are too low, but I was noticing it was really shifting me into that more wired state of mind, that feeling when your body's really tired but your mind is wired. When I'm in that state, I cannot sleep. I kind of put together the pattern that when I would go too long without eating throughout the day, I would enter that state, that like wired state. That would still stay with me into the evening, and that would make it really hard to sleep. So the first thing I'm doing to be able to sleep on Vyvanse and to also just really reduce any other side effects I experience from it is just making sure I'm eating regularly throughout the day, giving myself snacks and meals that have sources of protein and complex carbs. That also really does help with the appetite suppression as well. When you eat more regularly, it releases more hunger hormones that signal to your brain to eat. The more regularly you eat, even if it is something small, it will help with the appetite suppression. I do have a bit more to say on that because I don't like telling neurodivergent people on stimulants who have no appetite suppression to just eat when you're not hungry. If you really can't get anything down, I like to turn to liquid nutrition. So things like smoothies can be a lot easier to get down than like a full meal. A protein shake, that's even more liquid than a smoothie. Softer foods, warm foods. One thing I like to do, I'll make like a big meal the night before and have it last like a few days, and then I'll make sure it's something that actually tastes good that I'm gonna eat. And then I'll have like 4 or 5 or sometimes even 6 mini meals of that throughout the day. Maybe some other stuff too, so I don't get super sick of that. Just breaking it up and having a much smaller amount I find is a lot easier and especially less intimidating than just having like a huge lunch kind of thing when you are experiencing appetite suppression. And eating more regularly throughout the day has also been huge for reducing anxiety as well, especially while I'm on Vyvanse. When your blood sugar levels drop, your body doesn't have enough energy, enough fuel to do all the tasks it needs. So anxiety can be one symptom of just not having eaten enough. I find stimulants, including coffee, but definitely ADHD meds, can really make anxiety a lot worse because they do act on our nervous system directly. Another reason to eat regularly. Another thing that I'm doing to be able to sleep on Vyvanse and just like reduce other negative side effects is really reducing my screen time in the evening. So when I'm done work, I'll close my laptop obviously, and then I try to look at my phone really minimally after 6. So I will look at it to like change a song or change the audiobook. I've been getting really into audiobooks and podcasts. If someone texts me, I will either reply the next day or I'll send a voice note or just call them. Just really reducing the amount of screen I look at has been so huge for my sleep. It hasn't been easy because it means I can't watch The Pit on weeknights, which is my favorite show that I've hyper focused on. I'm on my 3rd rewatch. It's a sacrifice I've had to make, but it's been worth it because when I don't sleep, it just like ruins my life. Another thing I do every day when I take Vyvanse, I do have to go to the gym in the morning and work out pretty hard. All the times that I haven't done that, I've had either no sleep or really bad sleeps. It's only been 3 times that I haven't done that, but I really do have to schedule my day around taking Vyvanse and making sure I am able to go to the gym for at least an hour, do quite a lot of cardio and weights. I just find that I can't sleep unless my body's tired when I'm on Vyvanse, and going to the gym really helps with that. Going to the gym also really helps with my muscle tension too, just because when I go to the gym, I'm doing workouts that activate pretty much all my muscles. So the first half I'll usually go on the Stairmaster, which is crazy because I used to find that so hard. And it still is, but it's just like where I'm at now. But that really activates all my lower muscles quite a bit in a way that I can actually feel them. And when your muscles are activated, blood flow goes to them. And then the second half, I'll do more upper body weights. I'll do a lot of like hanging from the bars. I find that really helps bring blood flow to my shoulders, which get really tense on stimulants too. And then I'll also do a lot of attention to mobility throughout, and especially after towards the end of my workouts. And taking magnesium also has been great for reducing muscle tension. Be sure to take either magnesium bisglycinate, or it's sometimes called just magnesium glycinate, or threonate. Do not take magnesium oxide or citrate. Citrate maybe, but both of those are more for constipation support. So yeah, your body is going to absorb the magnesium bisglycinate a lot better than those other forms, so I would not recommend those other forms. Magnesium does like 800 things in the body, but one of the things that it does is helps your muscles relax. So I'll definitely take at least 200 milligrams before bed. And then I'll usually take like 1 or 2 200 milligram capsules throughout the day as well. It's also great for brain health too. It's always something I want. And then the last thing that I'm doing is kind of a ton of little things in one, just really working on my mindfulness practice and nervous system health in general. If I am calm and in a good place before I go to bed, I can sleep a lot better, obviously. So to kind of get myself in that mind state, there's quite a few things I do. I have a meditation app that I really like. I use the Chani app. It is an astrology app. I love astrology as well, but it's got a lot of really great meditations on it. So I'll do one of those either in the morning or in the evening if I don't get to it in the morning. And they're all about 10 minutes each, so I find that they're quite ADHD friendly. Another thing that I'm doing, I've been listening to a lot of vagus nerve music or vagus nerve sounds just on YouTube. I switched over from Spotify to YouTube completely this year, so I listen to everything on YouTube. Just listening to music or sounds, that's really relaxing. I love the vagus nerve sounds. They just make my nerves feel really nice and they make my brain feel really nice. So I'll always listen to that before going to bed. While I sleep, I listen to brown noise on speakers. I also just get that through YouTube. It's just kind of a fuzzy sound, but for the most part, it'll block out a lot of noises. Just like in my apartment, like the fridge will kind of like make a noise in the middle of the night, but the brown noise will, for the most part, block that out. Those are the main things that have really been working for me. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video because I've been talking about my experience being on ADHD medications for a while now and just have tried a bunch of different ones. Literally been on them, on and off them for 20 years. They can be such an incredible life-changing tool, but for a lot of people, they cause really horrible side effects. I'm not saying this is going to work for everyone. I'm just saying this is what has worked for me. And it doesn't always work for me. Like there have been a few nights where I haven't been able to sleep for whatever reason. But for the most part, if I do all these things every day, then I can sleep. I just think it's really important to talk about our experience on these medications because they have such a huge potential to improve the quality of our lives. But at the same time, the reality is that they can have so many negative side effects as well. So I think it's really just important to be transparent about all that. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I really do want to get back into making long form content. So yeah, please like and subscribe. Yeah, thank you again for watching. I'd love to know about your experience too on ADHD meds because I've learned so much from people on the internet just sharing what's helped for them, what's not helped, and it's just something that has made me feel a lot better just knowing I'm not the only person going through this.